Prior to my relationship with my ex-husband, I was a church musician. I was also very heavy into the church, different activities. I was working with the youth as well as the organization within my church. And also I was a community volunteer. I did several volunteering at different locations. I met my ex-husband doing something that I love, volunteering at the school where he was working at. He was very nice, supportive, compassionate. I married him because we was getting along very well. He was very supportive of me during the time while I was in school, very caring. And we actually had a lot of things in common during the time. We was both from Tallahassee, I would say, as well. A lot of activities we both enjoyed doing. He was into music like I was into music as well. Actually, I had my own apartment during the time when we met, and so I got pregnant during that time. So it was a small apartment, so he had a family house, so we decided with the baby to move into his family home since it was bigger than my apartment. He was loving, he was excited to have a boy now, yes. He was always playing activities with him. He loved being outside, playing on a four-wheeler with him as well. During my pregnancy, he started using some more substance abuse. He started using some substance, and then he started getting more. Actually, prior to me being pregnant, I noticed he was very angry all the time. And there was an incident in which while we was moving into the home, he got very angry at an individual that was helping us move, and it was another female, and it was a relative, so I kind of just brushed it off. I was like, maybe they have that relationship like that, whereas he could speak to her a certain way. And I was like, okay, maybe, and I just brushed it off, and it was like, maybe that's the relationship they have together. But he was always very angry, I would say. Yes, I would say very controlling, because he used to ask me all the time, why you always at the church? You stay at the church a lot, yes. I was like, well, when you first met me, I was very involved in the church. He would say things to me like, you live in my house, so you do what I tell you to do. Things like that. Or he'll call me out my name and tell me things like, nobody else would want you but me. He would say stuff like me, like, you know, a motherfucking bitch. And I would say, you got one more time to keep calling me a motherfucking bitch, I'ma leave. But he consistently kept calling me out my name, yes. It lowered my self-esteem, because prior to him, I was having a lot of self-esteem issues. So it made me feel bad. And I didn't realize I was being abused during that time. Because when I was thinking of abuse, I always think of the bruises. There was no bruises on me or nothing like that. It was just, besides my regular childhood bruises, that's what I had. Not realizing I was being abused. I believe because he now had to support me, because I was not working during that time yet, and the family, and the son as well. So that was a lot of pressure on him. That's when he started using the substance abuse more. And then he would be telling me I'm worthless, I wasn't worth nothing, I wasn't doing anything. How he was always buying everything. And I was always gone all the time at the church or doing something else. There was some mental health issues there as well. He was very depressed, and the anger, he was very angry a lot, yes. During the time when we moved into his family home, I was graduating school. And after I finished school, I actually got a job. He actually got another job, and his old job, he recommended me to his old position, and so I was able to get the old position that he was working at. And so he got another job, a promotion to another position. He started changing after he got his new job, because it was more stressful, because he was having to travel more. It was more responsibility from the home as well as in his job. And now I was working as well, and so I wasn't at home. It was more responsibility on me, because I was new to a position, and he started changing more because he wanted to be more controlling of what I was doing. And then the verbal abuse started more, and I would tell him to stop in front of my child, because my child was getting older, and he would tell me stuff, still call me out my name, a bitch, motherfucking bitch, things like that. And then he would continue to smoke the marijuana all the time. And I kept telling him, you can't be doing that around him, because that's not good to do, things like that. And then, of course, I was still volunteering as well as involved in the church, and he didn't like that. Then the years passed, and then I got pregnant again. And it was another boy, and I just knew he was going to be excited about the second child. But it was just more responsibility. So my second child came along, and I thought he was my second child, he just fell in love with him. He was just like, he was so proud to be a father again. But I thought that would change him, but it didn't. He just continued to be angry more because he seemed like it was more responsibility. And I was moving up in my career as well at my job, and he didn't like that either. As well, he used to always try to tell me, well, one for me, you wouldn't have that job, things like that. I was getting more promotions, different positions, higher paying job positions where I was currently working. As far as financial, I told him, I was like, I would not share a financial account with you because my money would not go towards your habit. Yes, would not be spent on your habits. So I decided to have my own separate account with him, banking account. So he had his own finances and I had my own finances. It gave me opportunity to save up for later on because I knew after a while I wouldn't be able to stay there with all that verbal abuse, especially with two boys. It's like I could not raise two boys in that type of environment as well with him smoking marijuana.
What made you leave?
He kept calling me out my name and would tell me, he was very controlling, tell me things. I do what he said because that was his house. So I had no choice. And I kept telling him, I said, he was still continuing to call me motherfucking bitch in front of my boys. And they was older, well, my oldest son was older, so he was able to kind of see things. So I would tell him, you keep on, I'm gonna leave. And I finally decided, I came up with a plan and I left. The plan, what I did, when I decided to leave, what I did, I would do everything for my protection. I never did anything at home. I would always did everything at work. Like I would look for apartments, different things at work. So he wouldn't realize what I was doing. And on my lunch break, I would go looking for places to live. And I would keep all my information at work or in my vehicle with me. And so once I decided to leave, I got my apartment first and got everything set up. And then I finally just one day took my boys and we just left. And he went to the place and we finally separated for good, left. I left with my boys. Yes, he still wanted to be a father. And when I left, he actually moved back in with his family, with his parents. When he tried to convince me to move in with his parents, I was like, no, I decided I'm not gonna take this no more. It wasn't the location, it was the individual. And so that's when I decided to get my own apartment, yes. So he went with his family, and then I got my own apartment. Well, we decided once we separated that we came up with a visitation plan, whereas every week he would get the boys, but the boys would be with me mainly. So we came up with a plan to do that without any court orders. We decided to have a plan like that on our own. Well, that was the best plan we decided to come up with because since they would split with me majority of the time. Well, there was an incident when we was actually separated for a long time, and there was the boys had a lot of items that he purchased him. And so he would call me one day, he called me and told me that he was coming over to the house to get the items, the clothes that he bought the boys. And I told him I wasn't home, I was out with the store with my youngest son. The only person who was home was my oldest son because he was still home at that time, to stay by himself. Well, he told me, he said, I don't care who is at the house, I'm going to get them clothes. Whoever at the house, I'm still shoot their asses no matter, I don't care who is at the house. I'm gonna shoot their asses and I'm gonna come and get them clothes because I was able to take care of the boys on my own without his financial support. He would tell me that nobody would be able to take care of his boys like he is. When it was his week with the boys, he would take the boys, would live with him at his family home. So he would spend time with them over there as well, and they would do their own activities while I was doing my own thing. Majority just cleaning up and running my little errands, things like that while they was away. But a lot of time during that time, he would constantly just call me just for anything. But then if he got mad at me, he would sometimes bring the boys back early, just try to get back at me. He would do things like that. Well, my oldest son always had a key to the apartment just in case he needed to come back and get something. So during that time, my husband made a copy of a key to my apartment. He would use the key to go looking around in my apartment when I was at work. He was snooping around. And I would notice there were things out of place when I would come back to my apartment. And I'd be like, I know it wasn't the boys because they all at school. And I know certain things I didn't move around. Or my husband would call me and he'd be like, well, I can help you with the bills because I know you're behind on certain things. And of course I was behind on certain things. I was late. And so he would make comments, well, if I live with you, I can help you pay. I can help you with financial support. He had a vehicle, a truck that had a very distinct sound, like I could hear it. And so many times he'll be driving around my apartment, and I'll actually go outside, and I'll be standing outside to let him know, hey, I see you driving around my apartment. And there was actually an incident where I was driving to meet a friend, and he was at the stoplight, and I passed by him. And I said to myself, I know he's gonna follow me. And because he knew there was only two places I could go in the direction I was heading, either to the store or to a park. And with my truck, I had a vehicle that was very distinctive. And so he followed me when I was at the park, when I was meeting my friend girl. And she was like, do you wanna go inside? I was like, no, let's just stand out here. And a few minutes later, he comes back, he pulls in, and I was standing outside just waving at him, like, yes, I see you. And then so he would continuously call me and harass me. Just calling about other things. If not, he'll sometimes pop out of my apartment for no reason. And he'll come by my apartment just to argue with me or criticize me. And he'll criticize me, and he'll talk about me physically, or he'd be like, nobody wants you like I want you. Or he'll try to talk about the items and pick at my furniture, things like that, say negative things about the items. So like, oh, this place all right, but ain't nothing to it. Like, you think you're all that because you got your own apartment. Try to degrade me, make me feel bad about myself. During the separation, we wasn't divorced yet. Yeah, until I finally decided to file for divorce. And he'll tell me all the time, well, you can't afford a divorce. You can't do this, you can't do certain things. So I decided to go ahead and process the paper for the divorce. Well, he wouldn't sign the paperwork. It took me forever to finally get him to sign the paperwork. And I was finally able to get him to sign the paperwork. Continue. Well, during the week we was divorced, well, the week of the divorce, we got divorced on a Wednesday. And on that Friday, he tried to commit a murder-suicide. So that Friday morning, I went home for lunch. And when I went home for lunch, I opened my apartment door, and he had a gun pointed at me and told me just to get my ass inside. So we was arguing back and forth about, he was telling me that he wanted to come back into my life, and he wanted us to be a family again, and that he would change, and that he would no longer talk to me or be cursing me out. He would no longer smoke marijuana, and he would tell me that nobody would love me like he did. And he would try to tell me that, talk about me physically and things like that. And he would try to come up with a plan about how we can be a family together and things like that. When we was arguing, he was proposing his plan to me. I did not believe him because he kept making comment about, he was saying, well, we don't have to always live in my parents' house. We can always get a place of our own. And I kept telling him, it's not the location, it's you. You are the problem. But he still didn't believe. So we was arguing back and forth. And then finally, next thing I remember, I woke up and he shot me in the back of my head. And then after he shot me, he thought I was dead. He killed himself. When I woke up in the hospital, that's when my family told me exactly everything that what happened, that he killed himself after I was shot. Yes. After I was shot, I kept hearing a voice in my head said, shouting at me, never give up, never give up. And that's all I kept hearing in my head, never give up. It was a voice shouting at me, never give up. Yes, and so I kept fighting. My skull was shattered on the right side. I also lost the vision of my eye In addition, with my ex-husband, he was always trying to plant seeds of discord into my head, but I would never let it grow and things like that from him. The gunshot loss left a lot of physical damage. Because I was shot, I also suffered a stroke because of the blood loss. Because the massive stroke, it left me paralyzed on my left side. And I'm also in a wheelchair now because of it. Yes. All of the result because I left my husband who was abusive. I believe when he had the gun, it was just a way of force to try to get me to convince me to stay with him. It was once again more control that he was trying to have over me. Finally, after everything was shot, I got a copy of the police report, and all the information was saying how he wrote letters to his family members, as well as his my son. And actually, in one email, he was explaining how about my funeral, so he just knew I was gonna die. Yes. So he was explaining about how people would probably see me as a goody two-shoes. Probably I would have a whole bunch of people at my funeral, whereas he'll be looked at as the bad guy because of what he done. He sent me an email prior, it was, a couple of months prior before the shooting. Not only did he send me emails, but he sent me this long email about, he wrote me an extra letter too about his financial situation and how he was struggling, how he wanted to come back, and how he wanted to come back as a family so we could put our money together to help him because he was having a lot of issues financially as well as at work. What I would do differently, when I first saw the warning signs, I would have gone out and I would have been more careful. Now, to me, one thing I did not do is I did not go to the police when he was stalking me. I did not go to the police about it because I didn't want him to lose his job because I knew he could not have a police record with the job he had. So I decided not to go to the police about it because I felt bad. Because I just knew if I went to the police, that would anger him more and that he would try to hurt me if I went to the police. Not realizing that because I did not go to the police, that actually hurt me in the long run because not going to the police. Because I'm thinking maybe I could have got more help, more information about going to the police. They could have probably gave me the resources to handle things better. I learned that Shannon is a very powerful woman. Even now after the situation, I found out that Shannon is strong. Shannon is determined. Shannon is resilient. Shannon is amazing. Shannon is worthy. Shannon is brilliant. Yes. Shannon is a wonderful mother. Right now, I would tell people, no matter what you're going through, never give up, keep fighting. Because sometimes you get knocked down, but get back up. And sometimes what I do, I look in the mirror and say, Shannon, it's okay, you got this, keep going, never give up. Yes. I would say now, with my new life, I'm more determined, I'm more resilient. I'm enjoying seeing my young boys grow up. I saw my oldest son graduate from high school, and now he's about to graduate from college. I've seen my little boy. He was young then, he was young, and I see him growing up. He is a teenager now, but he's doing wonderful things as well, yes. So I'm seeing them grow up, and I thank God every day I'm still alive, because it could have been different. And I'm glad that I survived. Yes, and I'm determined to help other survivors to never give up as well.